Hello everyone, how you doing tonight? Let's have a big round of applause for Megan, everyone, please. Thank you. And my name is Alejandro Escovedo, and I live in Dallas, Texas now, but I've lived all over the place. I've lived in San Rafael for a while, and I was here back in the old Mabuhay Garden days. I was in a band called the Nuns way back when. I always say if you're clapping for the Nuns, you never heard the Nuns. You know? But my journey to this area kind of began from New York City, actually. I had left San Francisco, went to New York, and was playing in a band called the Judy Nylon Band. It was 1978 that we moved there. And around 1980, on the night that Ronald Reagan was elected president, a band I was in called Rank and File. We were trying to marry the sounds of George Jones and the Clash into one thing. And we went on a tour that was 7 weeks long. It took us from New York City all the way to Vancouver, BC. And the kind of messed up thing about that tour is there were only 7 shows in those 7 weeks. We left with $50 a bag of pot and a roasted chicken. That was our tour support. And none of those 3 things made it to Dayton, Ohio, which was our first gig. But before we left New York City, we had spoken with a friend of ours by the name of Lester Bangs. Do you remember Lester Bangs? I'm glad we do. And Lester was raving about Austin, Texas, you know, and he was talking about what a great scene it was, what a great little town it was, and of all the great songwriters that were living there, you know. So when we got to Austin, we were very eager to kind of soak it up, you know. And we loved it so much that when that tour was finally finished and we broke up on the way back to New York City, we decided, the remaining members, Tony and Chip Kinman and myself, decided that we would move back to Austin and live there for a while and kind of learn about country music and songwriting, you know. And when we got there, it was a kind of place where people like Townes Van Zandt, Blaze Foley, Guy Clark, Joe Ely, Butch Hancock, Jimmy Dale Gilmore, David Halley, people like Jubal Clark and Rich Minus. There was Lucinda Williams was busking on the drag, you know. It was an amazing place, full of songwriters, really was a town of songs. It was the kind of place where on any Saturday morning you might find any of those songwriters, especially Townes and Rich Minus, looking for the guitars that they had lost from the night before, you know. It was that kind of place. It was the only kind of place that could really kind of handle those kind of songwriters, you know, so I fell in love with it. And I moved into the town with the intention of staying there because I had been born in San Antonio, Texas, and hadn't been back in a while. And I wanted to return to Texas. So I moved next door to a gentleman by the name of Billy Smith was his name. He was about 75, 80 years old at this time. He had been a guitar player in a band called Prince Albert and the Sheiks, who were contemporaries of Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys. They were out of Terrell, Texas. And they were a real bona fide country swing band, you know. And he told me stories about how they would travel the countryside in a sedan. He said they pile into that sedan, they tie a mattress to the roof of the sedan with the equipment sticking out the trunk. He said they would throw the mattress out underneath the stars and they'd sleep underneath the stars when the weather permitted, and if not, they would find shelter in a barn or under a bridge or just from the kindness of strangers, you know. He said they mostly played for beer, food, and sometimes money, he said, and sometimes girls, you know. And it sounded like a wonderful life to me, so I pursued it. Billy had a lot of tattoos. He had a pinup girl on his forearm, and her name was Pearl because Pearl was his favorite beer. And with what was left of his muscles, he would flex them and make Pearl dance. You know, she was a very, very slow dancer at this point in his life. She would move around a little bit, you know. And I just loved him because he would tell so many stories. And he also said we were the worst country band he'd ever heard in his life, you know? So I fell in love with Billy. But when he passed away, I wrote this song for him. And it's a song called Five Hearts Breaking. Sky is black, Billy feels bad. Today thinks that he'd be better off dead. He hears the pain roaring in his head. He'll close his eyes, the world turns red. A smile that made the devil cry. She held his hands, looked him in the eye. She said, believe, believe in everything will be fine. Everything will be alright. Close the door, she ain't looking back. Twist of fate or a stroke of luck. Well, the answer's over there beyond the wishing well. Everything will be alright. sit at her feet. Walk upon the mountains and then you'll sail across the sea. Her eyes are taken from the stars above.